So a quick recap before we go to Unit 5. In Unit 4, we looked at what is called analysis of revenue. Under analysis of revenue, we discussed the concept of total revenue, marginal revenue, average revenue, and we also looked at the aspects of costs. We learned how to maximize the total revenue. The part we're remaining with is the measures taken by government in this kind of market. So if you could remember vividly, we said we have what is called total revenue, which is given by price times quantity. We have what we call average revenue, which is given by total revenue over quantity. We had what is called marginal revenue, which is given by the TR over what? The TC. The TR over the Q. And revenue analysis. We gave ourselves an example to say when you have P is equal to 1000 minus 5Q. How do we find the total revenue? We said you just multiply price times quantity. So 1000, then where there's quantity, you put the letter Q. You're not given, you just impute it. So here we're going to have 1000 Q minus 5Q squared. So this is what we said, or we called as our total revenue. And after differentiating it, who remembers how to differentiate? And differentiate the total revenue, the special name is called what? Marginal revenue. So 1000 Q, when you differentiate it, what do we get?
It's 1000.
And 5Q squared, when you differentiate it, we get what?
Minus 10Q.
Yes. Then when total revenue is maximized, we equate our marginal revenue to what? To 0.
0.
So we get this to 0. We solve for what?
Q.
We solve for Q. So when this one goes aside, we're going to have 10Q is equal to what? 1000. Then Q is equal to 1000 divided by what? 10. So this is going to be 100. Okay, so since we found our P, our Q, so to find our P, where there's Q, we put what? Our 10. So this will be 1000 minus what? 50. So meaning our P will therefore be equal to what? 950. So this is how we find the price. We also talked about the total cost to say under total cost function, if we're given 550 plus 20Q minus 2Q squared. We say total cost is a mixture of what? The fixed cost plus the variable cost. The fixed cost is simply the constant part. So our fixed cost in this case will be what? 50. And our variable cost in this case will be what?
2Q.
20Q minus what? 2Q squared. All together, everything that has a letter is called variable. So all this is your variable cost. So to find our marginal cost, we simply differentiate our total cost with respect to quantity. 50Q is 0. 2Q, 20Q is what? 20. 2Q squared becomes what? 4Q. So to maximize, we only maximize revenue and profit. To minimize, we only minimize costs. So whenever we minimize costs, our marginal cost is equal to 0. 20 minus 4q, when this goes this side, we're going to have 4q is equal to 20. So to find the function of output units that will minimize our costs, we simply say our q is equal to what? 5. So 5 units will minimize your costs. Sometimes we'll be given the profit as 120q minus 20 q squared minus 2q squared plus 15. This is your profit function. You can differentiate the profit function, the pi over the q. But here we're going to have 120q becomes 120. 2q squared becomes 4q. And the 15 will drop out because it is a constant. Whenever we want to maximize profit, the marginal profit must be equal to what? 0. So here, when we take the like terms, our 4q will come here. So what becomes our q? We divide both sides by 4. Meaning our quantity in this case becomes 30. So 30 units to maximize profit. Now, using the graphical representation, we said total revenue will usually look like this. And our total cost will usually look like that. So total revenue, when total revenue exceeds the total cost, we call that our profit. So you can tell here that from 3 to 7, you're making a profit. Why? Because at this point, your total revenue is more than your total cost. From 7 units to 10 units, we are making a loss because this line, our total cost at this point is more than our total revenue. What we are spending is more than what we are getting. Similarly, this line here is a point where total revenue is less than total cost. So you have more costs than your revenues. So we also have those points here where our price, our total cost is equal to our total revenue. We call that the break-even point. So these are the 2 points here. Break-even point is simply a point where our profit is equal to 0. Or rather, it's simply where what you spend and what you get is the same. So this is called our break-even point. So if you're advising the firm, they should produce between 3 and 7 units. Less than 3, there will be an economic loss. More than 7, there will be an economic loss as well. So profits will only be within this range. So we also looked at these 3 graphs. That demand is always downsloping. We have 100 here, and we have 50 there. And supply is always upsloping. You can have 10 there. So this is called our demand function. It is given by the following function. So the key thing is your gradient must be negative. So the law of demand simply states that for any normal good, if the price goes up, from P1 to P2, the quantity demanded will go down from Q1 to Q2. So this is what the law of demand states. On the other hand, we have supply here. Supply for any normal good, the price goes from P1 to P2, the quantity supplied will also increase. People will be motivated. No wonder for supply function, our supply function is given by A plus BQ. Now the supplier will always want to go up as much as possible. The consumer will always want to bring you down as much as possible. The two will meet at a point called equilibrium. Equilibrium is simply the point when supply meets demand. So here we had 100, here we had 10, here we had 50. Suppose our equilibrium here we have what? 20 there, and here we have 10. So the two areas I need you to calculate.
Hey, Collins, we can't hear you.
So here we have
Oh.
our consumer surplus. This is the area above this triangle on top. It is simply the area under the demand function. Then the area above the supply function is called the producer surplus. So if you're going to calculate this triangle here, the dimensions from 20 to 100, this is 80. So this is 80 there. Then from 0 to 10, this is 10. So to find the area of a triangle, we know it's half base times height. So half of 10 times 80, we get what? 400. So this is called our consumer surplus. Our producer surplus is this area here, this triangle. Here there's 10, and here from 10 to 20, it's another 10. So we're going to say half 100 times 100. So half of 10 times 10, which is 100, divided by 2 is 50. So when you total this, it is called the total surplus. So this triangle here is called the consumer surplus. This triangle here is called the producer surplus. When you add these two, we get what is called the total surplus. So these calculations can come as follows. Suppose we're given a demand function, which is 100 minus what? 3Q. And here we're given the supply function as 10 plus 2Q. We're asked to find the equilibrium. How do we find equilibrium? We know the principle under which equilibrium holds. When does equilibrium hold? When demand is equal to supply. So our demand is 100 minus 3Q. Our supply is 10 plus 2Q. Here we have the following. 100 is here, the numbers will be on one side. What happens to this 10? When it crosses, it will subtract. What happens with this 3q? When it crosses, it will be a positive. So 100 minus 10 is 90. 3q plus 2q, we get 5q. So when you divide both sides by 5, we're going to get our equilibrium quantity, which is 18. And if we're going to substitute this 18 in any of these two, you can even choose this one. Any of the two will give you the same answer. Our price is equal to 10 plus 36. So this is 2 times 18. How do we get 18? We divided 5 in there, 1 remainder 4. Into 40, it's 8. So 18. So when you put 18 here, so 2 times 18 is 36. 36 plus 10 is 46. So we have found our equilibrium. So how do we sketch these diagrams? I'll do 2 ways. Number 1, you just need to know that demand is downsloping, supply is upsloping. The equilibrium price is what? 46. The equilibrium quantity is what? 18. Then you identify the intercepts. In this equation, which one is a constant? 100 for the demand. So we put 100 here. In this equation for the supply, which one is a constant? 10. So we put 10 there. That is how we sketch it. So tell me, between A and B, which one is the consumer surplus and which one is the producer surplus?
Consumer is A.
Consumer surplus is A. Therefore, producer surplus is what? B. Okay. So how do we calculate now the area of A? Consumer surplus, half BH. So our base is from here to here, which is 18. Our height is from here to here. What is 100 minus 46? 100 minus 46 is 54.
54.
So when you compute this, what are we getting? Nine times 54 is 486. And the producer surplus, B, is half times 18 times what? What is the distance from here to here? 86. So we get 300 and what? 24. So this is how we find our producer surplus, and this is how we find our consumer surplus. Are we together so far?
Yeah, so far so good.
Okay. Now, this is where the government interventions come in. Consumer surplus is simply this area. Producer surplus, this is simply this area. When we add these two, we get what we call our total surplus. Now, there usually is government intervention that comes through, where government decides to regulate the black market, because producers will always want to go high up. So they will introduce what is called a price seal. A CU is simply the highest price that a producer must what? Must charge. And also to produce the producers, the government can also come up with what is called a floor price. A floor price is a price below which you should not bargain. Okay. So what is price ceiling and why is it important? What is price ceiling and why is it important? So price ceiling is a government intervention that is usually put in place to prevent price from rising above a certain level. Whereas a floor price is an intervention that keeps price from falling below a certain level. So this is very vital that the government intervenes in the market so that we don't discriminate or we don't exploit the market. So this area here, X and Y, is what we call the deadweight loss. The deadweight loss. The deadweight loss is very important in economics because it shows the total welfare, or it denotes what is called the social surplus, which arises due to incidences like taxes, subsidies, price ceiling, price floors, and externalities that may come from a monopoly. So we're going to do a small exercise, which is going to be very vital. So this is attached to demand theory. I know we did it. So I want us to start together here. Suppose we're given 10 minus 2Q, and we're also given 5 plus we're given 4 plus Q. Which one of the two is the demand and which one of the two is the supply? The one with the negative is the demand, and the one with the plus is the supply. So what happens at equilibrium? Supply is got what? Demand. All right. So our supply is 4 plus what? Q. Our demand is what? 10 minus 2Q. So we make Q subject. So the 10 will be here. When we bring the 4, it will subtract. The Q will be here. When we bring the 2, it will add. So here we have 3Q is equal to what? 6. So when you divide both sides by 3, we're going to have Q is equal to 2. So what we do to these two, we put it at any of these. So when you put your 2 there, our P becomes what? 4 plus 2, which is 6. You can draw this. Demand is downsloping, our supply is upsloping. The supply is always upsloping. Price and quantity are as follows. Our equilibrium price is 6. Quantity is 2, starting at 0. Identify the constant for the demand, it is at 10, so it's starting from 10. Identify the constant for the supply, it is at 4. So put 4 there. So we have the consumer surplus on top, producer surplus below. Now, how do we calculate the consumer surplus? Consumer surplus is half BH. Our base is the distance from here to here, which is 2. Our height is the distance from 6 to 10, which is what? 4. This cancels, we're going to have our consumer surplus as 4. And the producer surplus is also half BH.
Collins, isn't it supposed to be 4 as well down there?
Quantity here is 2. So from
Oh,
here
okay.
to here is 2. So it's the base.
Oh, so it's half of the 4.
Yes. So when you do this, here we have 2 and here we have 4. Then we can redraw this. Here we have 2. From here to here it is 2. So half 2, 2. What do we get? We get a 2. So the consumer surplus is 4. The producer surplus is 2. Now government will say enough is enough. You're exploiting the market too much. We are not going to allow people to charge above what? 8 kwacha. So you draw a line here at 8 kwacha. What equation is this? This is a demand equation. What is the demand equation saying? Price is equal to what? 10 minus 2Q. So we know where there's price, we put what? 8. We've been given 8. So we want to know what quantity it will have here. So where there's price here, we put 8. So here 8 is equal to 10 minus 2Q. So when the 2 comes this side, it will be positive. The 8 comes this side, it will subtract. So 2Q is equal to 2. When we divide both sides by 2, our Q is equal to 1. So this one here, it will drop at 1. Now we also want to know the floor price, the minimum price here. So we can only find this one if we substitute our Q here into the supply equation, because this is a supply equation. What is the supply equation? P is equal to what? 4 plus Q. So where there's Q here, we're going to put what? 1. P is equal to 4 plus 1, which is 5. Now we have a complete cycle. So we're interested in these areas, X and Y. This is what we call the deadweight loss. Can I repeat? Are we clear? Are we observing?
Maybe you can just run through quickly again.
Okay. What are floor prices? What is price ceiling? Define price ceiling first of all. And what is the floor price? What did I say is price ceiling? What did I say is price ceiling? You forgotten? I said price ceiling is price ceiling keeps the price from rising up above a certain level, which is called the ceiling. And price floor keeps the price from falling below a certain level. So when you're dealing with an equation where you find that's a demand and your supply, they meet at equilibrium. So when the government dictates a price seal, here we had what? 10. And here we had what?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
4.
Could you please repeat it?
So they'll tell you that the maximum price, that is called the price seal. So you are going to substitute this 8 on the price function of the demand. So in this case, we're given the demand and the supply. At equilibrium, demand is equal to supply. So our supply was 4 plus Q, which is this one here. How are we able to know that this is our supply? Because the gradient is positive. Our demand is 10 minus 2Q. How do we know that this is our demand? Because of the negative there. So we solve for Q and P by putting the like terms together. So we found our Q as what? 2. So when we went here, our Q was 2. And this 2, when we substitute it here, 4 plus 2 is 6. Even if we put it here, 10 minus 4 is equal to still 6. So this is called our equilibrium price, and this is our equilibrium quantity. And how do we define the intercepts? The 10 is the intercept here, and the 4 is the intercept there. So we are told that the government decides to charge or introduce a price seal of 8. So when we put 8 there, it first touches what demand? What function is this? The demand. So this is our demand function. So where there's price, we put 8 so that we know what Q is. And the 2Q goes this side with positive, and the 8 goes this side with subtract. So we're going to have 2Q is equal to 2. We divide both sides by Q to get our Q, which is 1. So when we put this, the Q is 1. But we haven't found this minimum price here. So this one, we'll put it in here. The supply function, sorry, this one here. So when you put 1 on the Q, it will be 4 plus 1, which is 5. That is why we're getting the 5. So if you're going to redraw this one here, X and Y, it's from 8 to 6 and 1 to 2. So our X will look like this. Here we have a 2 and here we have a 1. Now Y, the distance from here to here, 1 to 2 is still 1. And the distance from 6 to 5 is 1. So we ultimately have this following graph. It's 1, 2, 1. So these two graphs, when you add them up, will give you what is called the deadweight loss. This comes about because of price ceiling and the floor prices. So just find the area, half BH, so half base is 1, the height is 2. Get a 1 there. And half, this one is 1 and 1. You get a 0.5. When we add these two, we get 1.5. This is called our deadweight loss. That is what we call our deadweight loss. So price ceiling policy has been figured above. Price ceiling is simply the highest price that government can ever charge. Any questions? Any questions at this point? So can you identify A, B, C, D? What is A? What is B? What is C? Which one is deadweight loss? Identify the 4 things I've talked about. So consumer surplus is simply A plus B, this whole area. Then the producer surplus is B, D, E, this whole area. And the deadweight loss is simply B and D. The deadweight loss is simply B and D. So this is what I've been trying to explain. So this is what we call government intervention. The floor price, the minimum price policy enacted to help the producers, and the price seal is meant to protect the what? Is meant to protect our consumers. So let's try this example together. We're given, even if there's no D there, you need to know that one is a demand function and one is a supply. Supply has a positive gradient and the demand has a negative gradient. So we're given the following. We're being asked to calculate the equilibrium price and quantity, the producer, the consumer surplus, and also if there's a price ceiling of what? 10, identify the deadweight loss. Okay. So I've explained everything. I now need you to help me apply. Remember, I said all these units, we need to do all the exercises for us to be ready for the test. Ladies, how do you find the equilibrium?
Okay, so you equate those two equations, that's the supply function and the demand function, and then you substitute.
The one with the negative. Difference of supply. The one with the positive gradient. So let's equate. How do we equate?
-20 minus 4.
20 minus 4.
And then 2q minus 2q, or 2q plus 2q.
Okay, so
And then, am I right? Am I on the right track?
so here 20 minus 4, correct?
And then 2 is equal to 2q plus 2q.
Excellent. 2q plus 2q. What do we have?
16 is equal to
So it will be 16 is equal to 4q.
16 is equal to 4q.
Then we divide 4q into 4 and 16. So that will be, so our q is going to be 4.
And what do we do?
Then we substitute it into any of the equations.
Okay. So we substitute in any of the equations. So we have what?
We have the price.
2q. So what do we have? Where there's q, we put a 4. So we're going to have, what are we going to have?
So that would be 4 plus 8, which is 16.
Okay.
Sorry, 12, yeah.
12. Okay. So we can draw a small box there. Our price is what? 12. Our quantity is what? 4.
4.
Now, how do we draw the demand and supply? Demand is here, supply is there. They are meeting at what? Where do we put the price? Here. Where do we put the quantity? There. What is our equilibrium price? 12. Quantity is 4. And you identify the intercepts. What is the intercept for the demand? The constant is what? The demand
20.
20. There. And what is the constant for the supply?
4.
4.
Which one is the consumer surplus? And which one is the producer surplus?
between 12 and 20 is the consumer surplus.
Consumer surplus is here, and the producer surplus.
Yeah.
Right. So tell me the dimensions of the consumer surplus. So we have what? Our demand was given by P is equal to what? 20 minus 2Q. And our supply was given by P is equal to what? 4 plus 2Q. What was our equilibrium? 12, 4, then 24. 12, 4, 24. So here is our consumer surplus and our producer surplus. So how do we calculate the consumer surplus? Half times what? Base times what? Height.
Height.
So if we're redrawing it, what is our base? From here to here, 4. The height from here to here is what?
8.
8. How did you get the 8?
The difference between 20 and 12.
So how do we calculate this now? So we get half of 82, which is what? Who can help us with the producer surplus?
Let me try, Collins.
Okay.
So yeah, so that would be half 4 multiplied by 12. No, sorry. That would be 8 again. Because 12 minus 4 is 8.
Excellent. So we're going to get what? 16 as well. All right, so our consumer surplus is what? 16. Our producer surplus is what? 16. Our total surplus will be what? The total will be
32.
32. Now we're taught something else. That government has instituted a price ceiling of 10. So let's identify where the 10 is. So we are going to cut. We put 10 here. Which function is it touching here? Demand or supply?
Demand. Demand.
What do we do with this price of 10? Where there's price, we'll put 10 here, right? So that we find Q. So what happens to this 2Q when it goes inside? It will be positive. Then this is 20 minus what? 10. Gives us 10. So we divide both sides by 2. So what becomes our quantity? What becomes our quantity? 5. So when you drop this one here,
Isn't the 10 supposed to be between 4 and 12, not where it is?
Exactly, ma'am. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, that's why it's
That's
not
what I wanted
making
to see
sense.
as well. Mm.
Thank you for that. It's not making sense. So 20, 10 is supposed to be where? 10 is supposed to be
Between 4 and 12.
Yeah, thank you here. So we put it here, right? So which equation does it touch first? The
Supply.
supply. All right. So we made it here. So we put 10 here is equal to 4 plus 2q. So in this one, this 4 goes the other side. We're going to have 10 minus what? 4 is equal to 2q. What is 10 minus 4?
6.
6. When we divide both sides by 2, what becomes our
Get 3.
q?
Get 2.
Equal to 3.
3.
So this is a 3 there. Okay. So this 3, we take the line up to touch the what? The demand function. Now, since this is q, where there is q here, we're going to put what? 3. So this will be 20 minus what? 2 times 3 is what? 6. So 20 minus 6 is what? 14. So this is the 14 that we have there. So the deadweight loss is what we want to calculate, x and y. So if we were to redraw this, x and y, the distance from here to there, 14 to 12, is 2. From 12 to 10 is another 2. Now the distance from here to there, so from 3 to 4, what is the distance?
1.
1. So if I were to recalculate that, 2, 2, and 1. So half BH. So this is half times the base of 1 times the height of 2. When we calculate, we get 1. Even the other one, half times the base of 1 times the height of 2, we get what? 1. The total is called the deadweight loss. So this is how this question was supposed to be tackled. So to find the equilibrium, I don't know how, he did not show the working, he just gave you the answers. It make it difficult for you to follow. So did we find 12 and 4 ourselves? Did we find
Yes.
4?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Then we went further on to say, how did you find the consumer surplus and producer surplus? Did you find 16 and 16?
Yes, we did.
And the total surplus, which is called the level of social welfare. The sum of the two. Did you find our total surplus as 32?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then the deadweight loss. The deadweight loss, did we find as 2?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
So this is the graphical representation. We had 3 and 4. We had 12. We had 10 there. So after putting this one went to what? We forgot to add something here because you need that part as well. So when we put this 3 in there, we calculated our price on top as 14. So this is a 14 here. And we calculated this. So this is how we find our deadweight loss. All right.